All right, guys, so we're going to try this a second time. So StreamYard is not happy today. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can survive through this live stream. As many of you get back online, do me a favor. Can you let me know if you can hear me? I want to make sure that audio is coming across on this so that the stream is actually functional and hopefully it does not crash. If not, then I'll have to look at how else I can have this chat with all of you guys that been reached out multiple times today on questions between, what is MOPA, F1 or F1 Ultra, all good questions out there. So I'm going to put some links out there for those of you who are interested in picking up this new laser and would like to support us, which we would greatly appreciate. And then also kick things off. First of all, can you guys hear me? Am I coming across? Want to make sure that things are functional. Oh, excellent. Thanks, Nola. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just kick off. Several of you have been great to ping me throughout the day. Today is the day that a lot of the pre-orders for the F2 Ultra come to an end, and there's actually, I believe tonight, there's going to be an xTool kind of release on what the F2 Ultra is all about. And several questions have been coming up. One of the basic questions is, if I am new to laser engraving, should I choose the F2 Ultra or should I get the F1 Ultra, the F1 or the F1 Lite because it could be cheaper? Like, that's one question that I've heard. Another question that I've gotten is, if I have an F1, should I upgrade? The other one is, if I have an F1 Ultra, should I upgrade? That's the other question. And I get more. The other question is, what is MOPA and should I care? That's another good question. So a lot of questions are coming across. So what I wanted to do is, first of all, we're not going to get into the technical geeky aspect of what a MOPA laser is. I'm going to try to help you with this journey and these questions, but really take it from a pragmatic business perspective, because that's really what's going to drive this. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put it, and I'll try to answer it. I don't have Nilda here with me helping me manage the actual questions, but I'll try to make sure that I answer your questions. But our view is going to be from a business perspective. Should you, as someone that is either a hobbyist looking to get into small business or side hustle of laser engraving, how would you answer these things and not focus on the technical aspect of what a MOPA laser is, but more about what does a MOPA laser do for you, right? So let's start out. Let's start out with one of the basic things. One of the things that xTool is really, really good at, hands down, and they are what I would say to the laser community, to what Bamboo Labs has been to the 3D printing community. They've been able to take something very complicated like laser engraving, metal fabrication, and even apparel printing, right? And have made it super simple. They have a very keen eye when it comes to customer experience and really taking something that's complicated and making it an appliance. I've used this example in some of the podcasts that we've been on, and where I've said, all of us, many of us may like coffee, but do you want to be a barista, or do you want to just push a button and have coffee? I can tell you, as a coffee drinker, I just want to hit the button and get a great cup of coffee. Now, I like grinding my beans. I have a machine that does it because I like my coffee to be a little bit better. But you get the point of what I'm talking about. With laser engraving, that's what xTool has done. And I would say that from what I know so far, from what I've seen, and we are getting the F2 Ultra as well on the channel, they have continued to focus on user experience and how can they simplify something that is very technical to something that's very simple. So if you have an F1 and you are considering, should I upgrade to the F2 Ultra? That is going to be, or the answer to that is going to be, it depends. And it really depends on your business. You really have to think about what you're trying to accomplish. And in order to do that, I want to take you through and look at some of the things that, as a business person, as someone who is a partner, Nilda runs a laser engraving business, and I am her partner. I am her plucky sidekick. I have technical support and designer for many things. Is this something that you should get? So let's take a look at that for a couple seconds, and I hope that this will answer some of the questions that many of you have when it comes to should I consider this. So looking at the page on the F2 Ultra, this is a very impressive device for a couple of reasons. First of all, the kind of power that it has, the fact that this has a 60-watt laser, regardless of it being MOPA or not, and the fact that this is a 40-watt laser, regardless of the type or not. This is a significant spec upgrade or boost when it comes to laser engraving and what you have today. If you have either an F1 or an F1 Ultra, bottom line, it's just more power. And that's, I think, what confuses a lot of people, because it's not as simple as laser types that are different, but there's also more power, and that power translates to one thing, and that is speed. So let's scroll down for a couple things, and let me just highlight something. When you look at everything that's going on here and all the illustrations that they have, when you look at a MOPA laser and a laser of this type, you'll notice that all the things that you typically do with an F1 Ultra or an F1 or even an F1 Lite, for the most part, can be done here. Maybe the F1 Lite is a little bit more limiting because it only has one laser type. But if you are doing something on an F1 OG or doing something on an F1 Ultra, the bottom line with the F2, you're going to be able to do the same thing. If you're thinking about expanding your engraving area, you are going to be able to expand your engraving area if you're an F1 user. That is a small engraving area. It is, and I'm going to show you a jig right here. It's this area right here. It's a 4x4, right? 4 inches by 4 inches. That's all you can engrave on an F1. However, the F1 Ultra changes the dimensions completely. It's over 200 millimeters. It's bigger. It's much wider. Well, the F1 or the F1 Ultra and the F2 Ultra have pretty much the same engraving area. So you're not gaining more space to engrave. But let's face it, the F1 Ultra already had a large engraving area, one of the largest engraving areas of lasers in this comparable type. Matter of fact, it falls into a category for standard lasers, more industrial lasers, that would be a 300 millimeter lens type engraving area because it's so big. It's actually really big. So you're not going to gain anything in space, right? And unless you're going from an F1 to an F2. But what you do gain is this. And let me take you down. So all the same things, you can see that they do slates. You can see that metal is done. You can see you could do jewelry. You could see, again, what you see very commonly, right? So you see here in the MOPA space, 60 watts. We're used to this. We're used to gold. We're used to silver, stainless steel, brass. Think about this, aluminum, right? And you will be able to work with certain plastics like PLA, PETG, ASA, engrave them, mark them, which is something that we do as well. And when you look at the diode side, here are the things that you're really familiar with. You're familiar with the acrylic, the wood, the fabric, the rock, the leather. Now they have glass here. And let's just make sure we demystify one thing about glass. Natively, a diode is not going to be able to work on glass and do anything to glass unless something is added to it. We have to be really transparent about that. So to get glass, you're going to have to spray it. To get glass, you're going to have to paint it. To get glass, you're going to have to put maybe a sticker on it. One of those three things is going to have to happen. But can you etch glass? The answer is yes. But you're going to need something in addition to the laser to do that. And searching in any of the groups, we have a group. There are many groups out there. You're going to learn that it's going to require some type of additive to get that. But when you look at these, again, this is something that you could do on the F1 Ultra. This is something that you could do on the F1 as well. So what changes again? Let's keep on going down so you can see here. This is where things change. Color. I talked about this before, and when we first talked about the F2 Ultra, and I said that in my business, we don't do much with color. And I have to say, just to be very transparent, I have a 100 watt MOPA laser. I do. I have not just one MOPA laser, but I actually have two lasers. I have a 30 watt MOPA and a 100 watt MOPA. And they are capable of creating color, right? And we personally don't use that feature. And I'm going to explain why we don't in a second. But this is the massive differentiator right here for this product, is the fact that you'll be able to engrave color. Now, remember, if we circle back just a couple seconds ago, if you rewind to my comment about what xTool is really good at, xTool is really good about simplifying, taking something that's difficult and making it easy. What they have done when it comes to color engraving is simplified the process of creating color by when you introduce an image that has color in it. Think about any kind of graphic that may have, let's say, for example, we'll use something as basic as a rainbow. And if you were to bring in the graphic of the rainbow into the XCS software, it will break down every color into its own layer. It's going to separate it so that it is separate and distinct, and it makes it easier for you to manage. That is a big difference. Lightburn doesn't do that. Any of the software packages that I've seen from a third party, and I work with many of them, if not all of them, none of them are doing this. This is going to make it very easy for you to adopt color. The other thing that makes xTool different from a lot of the brands that I've seen out there is the fact that they also have their material library. They give you one of the best starter settings that I've seen in the industry. For the most part, the industry has been plagued by the fact that no color settings have been given at all to many users. I see this in the large community spaces for industrial lasers, where many of the brands will give you a laser. There are very few, and I would probably count on my hand, 2 companies that will provide you with a file that helps you with all the settings, and probably only one that does a really good job of keeping it up to date and having a very robust list. xTool is the complete exception. With their material library and also the way they've integrated XCS software, they're making it very easy for anyone to laser engrave. And that's what makes this company and the products that they have so accessible and very different. So they truly do it. And again, if I have 5 different lasers of the same type, all MOPAs, I will lean towards the xTool product because it's going to be easier, bottom line. And when it comes to running my business, I want something that's easy. I want something that is fast. The other thing that this company has that's going to be a little bit different when it comes to this, and this is going to be the same with the F1, right? F1 Ultra and the F1 are going to be the same, is the fact that they have cameras. And having a camera makes a difference when it comes to aligning graphics, viewing things. How does it look on the board? It still has the standard framing that you would use, but the actual camera is a big game changer for me when it comes to lasers of this type. And one of the things that, while xTool was one of the first to get it right, they're the first to now include 2 cameras. So in addition to doing the color that you see here, in addition to making color easier than anyone else has made it before, and then in addition to that, you have the fact that they've now incorporated 2 cameras. They're going to give you more precision when it comes to aligning graphics. There's a term that was used many, many years ago and may date me. WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. Their camera solution with all of these, the enhancement that they're doing in their software, make things easy. What you see on screen is what you get when you engrave. And that, my friends, is very much a game changer when it comes to running a business. Now, another area that frankly we don't focus on because of time, and you need to have a powerful laser, like a 100-watt laser is going to be able to do this, and that is embossing. Embossing coins has been greatly reduced. And if this is something you want to do, you really have to think about your business model. This coin, a coin that used to take 4 or 5 hours to make, I've made them. And frankly, it didn't make sense for my business. I wasn't going to dedicate 5 hours of a machine to put in a coin, and I was never going to make the money back. So we never really focused on it. But now with the 60-watt, right, that gives you the ability to do coins that used to take 4 to 5 hours. It brings it down to a little bit over an hour. Now that changes your business model. Now you have to ask yourself, would you want to dedicate a machine for an hour to make a coin? And how much money can you make? That's a personal question and a market question that you have to ask yourself. I will say that there are people who make a living making coins like this, and they have powerful machines to do it. But that's going to be an individual question that you have to ask yourself, and you have to do your own research to determine that. But this machine, because of the higher power, that 60 watt, is going to be able to get through metal much, much faster. However, if you're considering doing coins like this, the one thing that you need to be aware of is the amount of dust and dirt that is created through this process, and making sure that you have a good filtration system is important. And I have to highlight that having a filtration system that just sends stuff out the window is not a filtration system. You have to make sure that if you're in a suburb, whatever city you're in, that you're not in violation of any ordinances that have to do with air safety when you start shooting metal out the window. So make sure that you understand that. We use 2 AP2s in our home. because we are in a neighborhood where there are people next to us and we don't want to have any complaints. So we have our own filtration system that we use. So the answer to this, if you're going to be doing embossing, and I would say that of all the machines that xTool has had, if I were to do embossing, I do it on this machine because of speed. Then make sure that you understand what are your air quality requirements, both in your home or outside of your home or business, in order to have it. So speed to embossing is critical. Now, this is something else that is important to many, and that is the ability to be able to cut through metal, right? Especially if you want to make jewelry. And there are several jewelry makers. I actually have a conversation later on today with a Chicago local jewelry smith that is looking to get into laser engraving. I do a lot of consulting for large, small, and medium sized businesses that are going into personalization. And the question is really about this, is like, I want to be able to cut. I want to be able to engrave. I want to be able to work with precious metals. And when you look at 2 millimeters when it comes to jewelry is a great size. The fact that with this power, it can do it is impressive. The other thing is acrylic. We do a lot of acrylic. Now, one thing that I would have to test, but I don't expect it to do well because only CO2s can do this, is you'll notice that they're cutting black acrylic. Dark acrylic typically can cut with these type lasers. Clear acrylic is a total different story. Clear acrylic, you either need a CO2 or you need a UV laser to do that. So if you're working with acrylics of different colors, this is something that you should be able to do, but we'll have to do more research as to what type of acrylic you'd be able to work with. And then the last thing that they highlight is wood. Wood is something that it's great to cut. I choose not to cut my wood with this type of laser because of the charring, and you can see the marking that it will do here. But if you want to be able to cut wood that's 23 millimeters thick, as you can see here, that's something that you can do as well. But what this is highlighting is the cutting power of this laser, right? So that is not because it's a MOPA, because this is actually the diode side that's doing it. It just means that you have a 40-watt laser that is equivalent to what you see on the S1. That's what you had in maybe some of the D1s if you had the supersize. It's basically a super powerful laser that's going to be able to cut through these type of materials, right? Let me check and see if there's any questions coming up. Hey, BZ. So a lot of friends out there. I can see BZ and appreciate the hey gorgeous comment from BZ. Hey Eddie, thank you. All right. All right, don't have more than, yeah, that's true. Let me give you a con, right? Let's go back to the share screen and I'll talk about what's going on here. And this is going to be the difference between what I would call a commercial grade laser and a laser like this. And I don't mean to dismiss I would say the benefits of this type of laser, but there are other lasers that give you a lot more growth, right? That we'll talk about in a second. So let's see what else is going on here that you should be really interested in. Here you could see what they're talking about when it comes to just overall embossing. Embossing is a great feature, deep engraving of this type. I personally, my business doesn't require this. Like the amount of time and the amount of dirt that it takes to emboss an item, I think it's great. It's great for a personal item. It's great for something that has sentimental value. But I don't know if my business model would support doing just embossing. So what you need to ask yourself is, does your business model support it? Would you be able to recoup the time in the price that you would charge for the item that you are charging? The other thing you need to consider is the fact that the laser itself, when it's doing this, it gets very dirty. Now, one of the cool things, and this is the one thing that really excites me, probably more than the MOPA capabilities on this laser or the camera capabilities, is the removable fan that this system has. One of the things, and I will say we were the first to have created a charcoal filter in front of the F1 Ultra. So we created that because as we were engraving, we found that the fan was getting very dirty, and we wanted some type of pre-filter so that we could keep our fan cleaner and not have to go through the entire cleaning cycles that we have. And also it reduced a little bit of the smoke. So we were the first to create this pre-filter for the F1 OG and the F1 Ultra. And now what they have with this solution is the fact that it's removable. You can take it out, you can clean it. There's no wires, there's no screwdriver, there's nothing that you have to do. It's plug and play. Love whoever invented it. And xTool, if you're watching this, give that person a raise, because that was a great innovation. And I think many other companies should really take note and do something similar to this when it comes to that feature or function. All right, so take a look at what's going on over here. So here again, we're looking at the embossing, some of the features that you can create. Again, the small, the precision that you can get with those two lasers. And then this is the part that I think, if I was going from an F1 to an F2 Ultra, my answer would be yes, 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 yes. And that is because of speed. When Nil and I look at costing our products, and not everybody does this, but I would encourage you to do, we look at the time that it takes to create the product if we factor in profitability. If we can turn a product around faster, then we basically are able to make more money and also keep more money. An example, we've been using a UV laser, and a UV laser reduces not just the amount of time that it takes to clean up, but it reduces my prep time. It reduces so much when it comes to cutting charcuterie boards. So for me, something that is fast, something that requires little prep to no prep or finish is important. And when you look at the speed boost, 50% improvement in speed, 115% larger size. But remember, that is larger size when it comes to other ones. This is going to be closer to what you have on the F1 Ultra. And then when you look at the conveyor belt, if those of you who use a conveyor belt and want to use it, that's also going to give you some repeatability. But one of the things I just want to highlight also, I want to bring some realism into this. 15,000 millimeters per second is unrealistic. Gotta say it, guys, right? I have never been able to engrave anything at 15,000 millimeters per second. Never been able to do it, never been able to get great quality. And I have reviewed almost every commercial laser on the market, as well as products like this from xTool, Recreate, and everybody boasts on speed, but very few can actually engrave at 15 millimeters per second with quality. Very difficult, if not impossible to do. So when you look at that, you can just say, hey, it's faster. Is it going to be faster? Absolutely. Is it going to cost your time? I would not give so much focus on the 15,000 millimeters per second, but I would look at that it's going to be faster and it's going to be a significant bump, regardless of what that bottom number is. Now, again, the size and the conveyor. Conveyor is a great product. One of the things, though, it does one of these things. We have it. We've used it. I like more the F1 model, which the conveyor moves left to right. I think that's more usable for me versus something that rotates and just drops things off. That's not our business model, at least for us. It may be for you. So determine if you're going to get the conveyor or not. It really needs to be something that's not a novelty, and it's going to be something that you really are going to apply in your business. And here's I guess a summary of everything that's going on here. First of all, again, for me, the buys are going to be the dual laser, 60 watt and 40 watt. The fact that they have a combined laser system that allows you to work with all different type of materials, right, is powerful. The fact that it basically has that 48 megapixel camera, the dual camera, I'm really looking forward to playing with that so that I can get, we use the camera a lot, and we find ourselves always double checking. We do a camera view and then we do a frame view. If the cameras are this good, and because it has two, then it really is going to cut down one step, and it's also going to make my time to product faster. Embossing, I don't know if I'm going to do embossing, but I like the fact that they've cut the time down. A 5-hour process down to a 1-hour process is great, and it may be something that I'll look into. We do a lot of work like with VFWs. We also do a lot with law enforcement, military, and this is something that they're really into. And if I could offer that at a reasonable cost and at a reasonable time, then I'm all for it. The cutting of material is great. I don't do a lot of cutting. I use other machines for that. And then the speed, right? Not so much focused on that 15,000 millimeters per second, but focused on processing speed when it comes to completion is important to me. And with this power, knowing that I have other lasers that are of similar spec or higher, the speed is good. The speed is real, and the benefit means that you're going to get things done a lot faster. And then just the process. Their software is really good. It really shocked me to see how it handles color. Think about this. Grab a photo of your favorite cartoon, multicolor, drop it into the XCS software, and then to have every color broken into different pieces so that you don't have to separate the colors, and then they will automatically match it to their library. Depending on the material, it could be accurate. It may be a little inaccurate, but it's going to save a lot of time. I'll tell you, this software makes me want to do color. Now I have to see if it fits the speed and if it's the time. Now, one other thing I want to highlight, right, for you as you're thinking about this, and then I'll just give you my last 2 cents on buy or not buy, upgrade or not upgrade. And we're going to scroll down a little bit over here because I want to show you the dot size. And this is something that many people don't look at. So notice over here where you have a dot size. Typically what ends up happening is as you have more power, your laser dot size tends to get bigger. That means your resolution tends to get less, right? It's like, think about if you had a pencil or pen. The higher the number, the thicker the tip, which means that as you're drawing or as you're marking, it becomes broader. Now, when you look at this, it says that the spot size for the diode is 0.09 by 0.1. And if you look at the MOPA, it's 0.03 by 0.03. Well, let's bring in the F1. We're going to now switch over to the F1 Ultra. You'll notice that the dot size for the diode laser is 0.08. So when you go into the F1 or the F2 Ultra, let's look at it again, right? Remember that number, 0.08. When you come over here, 0.09. The dot size is bigger. That means, and it's not theoretical, it's factual, that for this laser, the actual resolution is going to be less. Can you tell the difference between a 0.09 and a 0.08? I can't. I just want to point it out there, right? That there is a difference there. Let's go back and look at the F1 Ultra. The fiber laser, which is now replaced with the MOPA laser. And again, the only difference between fiber and MOPA is the fact that you have other parameters that can be configured to be able to generate colors. I will say that a MOPA tends to do better with blacks too. So if you're really looking at black as one of your primary colors, which I do, then you're going to be able to get better blacks with this. But notice the resolution, 0.03 by 0.03 versus when we go over here, we have 0.03 by 0.03. So the MOPA and the fiber, despite increasing the power, going from 20 to 60, you still are able to retain the same resolution. So for me, that tells me that again, for metal, you're going to retain the quality that you had before, but you're going to be able to do a little bit more with it. So for me, if I am looking at an F1 and my budget permits it, and I want larger space, faster engraving on all the material types, regardless if I want to do color or not, this is a solid upgrade. If I am on an F1 Ultra and I'm moving over to the F2 Ultra and I'm considering it, consider this. Even if you don't care about color, I bet you care about speed. Depending on what your volume is, if you can reduce how long it takes to complete an engraving, and you can do that repeatedly for several items, 25, 50, or 100, you'll start feeling it. And you'll see the gains when something can engrave a lot faster. So I would say that that would be an upgrade. Which should you upgrade just because you want color? I can't really answer that because you have to really determine, is that part of your business model? How many times do you need color? How many times can you, if you're, for example, doing a wrap on a tumbler and it doesn't have a color base, would you remove the material and also color engrave at the same time? I don't really see a lot of people doing it. So if you see, someone like me, any of my other fellow influencers that basically are creating content and they're doing this cool stuff, make sure you don't fall into the FOMO of something cool, because sometimes the cool FOMO thing doesn't really pan out when it comes to business. It slows things down. You can't produce as much as you'd like, and you can't charge for it. So really think about everything about this product from a business perspective. Can you use it to either upgrade your business if color is present? Can you use it to charge more? Can you use it to reduce the time you take to engrave something and therefore increase your profit? Those are the things that should be your motivators, not the cool stuff that we can do because, hey, you know what? We're going to push it and make it look cool, right? But do we use it in our business? I can tell you honestly, I wouldn't. But that's me. There may be people out there that do. So just keep in mind those things. I'm going to switch over to the questions, and so that I can look at some of the questions. And the one thing I wanted to highlight, because I do see this out there, and this is a very valid question that's coming up, or a valid comment. And the comment is, and let me go ahead and bring it on screen here. So there's a comment here. There was one that came up about multiple lenses. And then here, there was another comment that counteracted that. There are lasers out there, right? And this is the comment that Epic Engravings is talking about. There are lasers out there that you can change out the lens and go from a 70 all the way up to 300 or even a 400 millimeter lens. When you do that, what happens is your engraving area goes from this big to this big to this big, right? As you change your lens. Now, if you think about this for a couple seconds, all of us when we were kids, maybe you played with magnifying glass when it comes down to sun, and then you would see like a little dot size would come through the glass. What you're doing is you're expanding the area of the lens, which in essence is creating a larger engraving area, but also is reducing the power of the laser because you're spreading it out more. Now, in order to do that, you need a powerful laser, right? Because if you use a large lens but have low power laser, you're not going to have enough power to provide any kind of engraving. So that's why the 20 and the 60 watt that you see here from xTool has been doing such a good job, especially on the 60 watt, because it has enough power to pull that larger area. So one of the things you have to ask yourself, does switching lasers matter to you? If you want to be able to, switching lenses matter to you. Would you like to go to a small laser to a larger laser? Now, in practice, if you go to a commercial business that has multiple lasers, the reason why they switch between lenses is because as you switch to a smaller lens, you get more power, more focus, which means more detail, right? So if you're on a 70, or maybe a little bit larger, not quite a 300 millimeter lens, you're going to be able to get finer detail in an engraving. And depending on what you're engraving, it may be important to you. With the F1, F2 Ultras, you don't change the lenses. So the lenses are fixed. So you are stuck with the resolution you're stuck with. That's just one thing that has to be known from a business perspective, but it may not matter to you. There's another question over here. And let's see what this question was. It says, what is the difference between the xTool F1, F2 with other brand lasers, mainly the interchangeable lenses? Is there an advantage or disadvantage? All right, so we've been covering that a little bit. So there are other brands, and I'm going to mention some of the ones that are out there. So you have the Kollmarkers of the world, the Monports of the world. You also have the Hauschens of the world. You have several other laser companies out there. All of them have interchangeable lenses based on the lasers that they're providing. But I would put them in a different class and different category altogether. When I look at these lasers, and we'll highlight one in specific, like if I think about Hauschen, for example, I've seen those lasers used in commercial businesses. Like when I walk through, or if I were to see or do a WebEx call with them or a Zoom call with them, these are companies that may have dozens of lasers. They're using these larger formatted lasers because of power, because of durability, because of their workhorses, and because of specialization that they may have. So when it comes to the laser even that you see here, it's a great laser. The xTool lasers are great lasers. They come with incredible usability, as I mentioned. And I'm also starting to see these more in marketplaces, like in, let's say, for example, retail spaces. You're going to see more personalization happening in super malls, regular malls, and also like in different marketplaces. You'll find that this one will come in place because of the enclosure, because of the camera. There's a lot of appliance-like features here that make it easier. But the big difference is between these other lasers and this laser is interchangeable lenses. It's going to be also power. It's going to be, there's again, more industrial parts of it that make it a little bit different. It's the easiest way to do it without getting into all the technical sides of things. Let's see if we covered all the questions out there. I think we've gotten everything. So guys, tonight, there's going to be a live stream. We're going to be on the live stream watching it as well. I've posted links. With our links, you get an additional, I think, $100 off for the F2 Ultra. No cost to you. They are affiliate links, so they help us. They help us grow, and they help us, create content like what you're seeing right here. So we also then have a Facebook group that focuses on UV printing, right? So we have a UV printing Facebook group, and then we also have a group that focuses on lasers, that is creative engravings out there. With all the jigs that we provide. So if you're interested in being able to be in a like-minded community where you're able to share with others, learn techniques, learn about all the sales, things that are happening right now on Amazon Prime, make sure you check out our groups. We'll go ahead and post a link there, but there is a lot of cool stuff out there that you can learn. And there's one, okay, we have another question here. Let's go and look at this one. It says, looking on getting into engraving on firearms with the xTool, the MOPA, yeah, for sure, right? So MOPA lasers are going to be better for, especially at that power, at the 60 watt. If you want to do, for example, the slide, if you want to do different parts of a firearm, you can do it. The one thing I would warn you on, this is just an FYI, right? That typically when you start working on firearms, depending on the state, and it may be not even depending on the state, I think all states require you to have an FFL. So because you become a gunsmith. So just be aware of the requirements in your state when it comes to that. But you can, even on the F1, in the F1, I know of many people, including gunsmiths, that will use an F1 to do firearm engraving, but it will be slower and not as fast as the 60 watt MOPA. Now keep in mind, the MOPA has nothing to do with it, right? What makes the difference is going to be the 60 watts. Now, there are things that you can benefit from the MOPA settings, obviously, to make things even faster or deeper engraves, but really what you're looking at here is power. So the F2 is going to be much better when it comes to firearm. And then the other thing is, because the bed is large, that 2200, the 220 by 220, it means that you could put, a full either, various components of the firearm can be enclosed and used inside of the laser. That's one thing I also like about this one. The shield seems to be a very robust shield. So that's going to be something that, I look forward to as well. Okay. All right, guys, 36 minutes in. I'll see you guys all tonight when you guys watch the live stream. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to support the channel, check out our groups. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.